All right, guys, we got some twice fired Alpha munitions, 7mm 08 brass. We're going to be doing just a quick resize and decap on this guy. Got it sprayed down with some Hornady one shot. After it's resized, we're going to go ahead and get it inside my Lyman trimmer here. We're going to take a look at how that works. Then we're going to go out in the garage and take a look at my new annealing machine, which I have only used a few times. We're going to check it out and talk about how I made it work. All right, we've got my Mech Marksman press here. It's a single stage, and then we've got our L.E. Wilson full-length bushing die setup in this, and we are just pushing the shoulder back about 1/1000th on this, guys, is how I've got it set up. Once it decaps, there we go. And we're putting about 3/1000ths neck tension on the neck with the bushing that we have installed in the L.E. Wilson die. All right, guys, this is the AGS Custom Annealer right here. So this thing is, at its core, very simple, but it's got some cool features here. So it's just got this turret up top, and then this guy when the motor is powered on. So right here you can hear an electric motor running. It's in this station. There's a rotary head down in there that if you put a case in there, let's drop a case in it, it sits and spins. Now it will do this at a continual rate. This motor speed never changes. It's always going to rotate this speed while it's in the torch head. Now what you do here is you can hit run stop. Oh, my machine's trying to move. And then you got your PWM out. And what this percentage does here is it controls the speed of this arm. So this is set pretty low at 23, and essentially the speed controls the amount of time that it sits and spins in the flame, right? So if we crank this up to 50, now this is moving much faster. How high does this go? It's gotta be up there, right? Okay, there's 100% speed. You're not gonna get any annealing done at 100% speed. So we can turn this down. It does have a setup for dual flames, so if you want to run 2 torches, you can do that. And then it's also got a part that came in the box that you can mount a Sharpie in, and while it's sitting there rotating, the Sharpie will mark the case, so if you're competing, you can be able to identify your cases. But for my cases last night, I found that I was getting the right amount of heat into the cases, right around 30% on my Creedmoor, my 708, and my 223. I did adjust where the torch head was sitting for all those cases as well, and it's super easy. It's just one Allen here, and I just use one of these little 3mm Allen drivers, and then it rotates left and right, up and down, and then you can angle it as well. So it's super simple here. And then you can move it around this post. You can also move the entire post into different positions as well, depending on what you're trying to accomplish here. So we're gonna get some brass loaded up and get things going, and then I'm gonna show you guys how I actually get this torch head set up how I want. All right, so some other things we're gonna need. You're gonna need a way to light your torch. You're going to need a torch, and I had to get a different torch head specifically to fit inside this machined piece right here. So it was a generic torch head, just the one that I already had. Didn't have these little cutouts for the oxygen to mix with the fuel, and it just was the wrong diameter. So you're gonna have to find the correct torch head there for that, unfortunately. Because I'm working on a plastic table out here in my garage, I'm just gonna throw down some heat pads, because when these brass cases come out after being annealed, they are hot. And I'm going to use a cookie sheet to catch all the brass. And then this guy just sits on the cookie sheet. It's all pretty simple. It drops out and makes a loud clang, and then it will roll down into the cookie sheet. They do get piled up a little bit underneath here, so I just take the metal end of my Allen wrench here and I'll just kind of scoop them out after every about 15 to 20 cases. No big deal. The actual placement in this turret for the different cases, these little guys, these little bushings are interchangeable, and it comes with 3 different bushings, plus this larger one right here, I believe is sized for 338 Lapua Magnum. This guy is a 223. I used this last night. This guy is 308 size cases, and then it's also got a set of bushings for Magnum size cases, like 300 Win, 300 PRC, 7 PRC, that kind of stuff. And it's basically just determined off of bolt face size. You could do other things as well with the smaller cases. I mean, it doesn't have to fit snug. The fitment inside these little bushings is not crucial as far as actually being rotated. It's underneath in that base that sits and spins the head of the case. So, I mean, I could put a 308 inside a Magnum case head and it would be just fine. It might just not get centered up as well while sitting in the flame, but ultimately you're still gonna get a lot of flame on that thing. Okay, it doesn't come out quite as clear in video of where exactly the fine point on this blue flame tip is, but from what I was told is that you want to put the tip of that blue flame right into where it meets the brass. So that's kind of what I did on my first time. I'm not an expert at this. This is my first couple times using this machine. So what I do is I stand directly above it and I look down and I make sure that the flame is centered into the center of where these bushings are and that the tip reaches that exact point, because you can shorten it or you can lengthen it depending on how much gas you feed it. So that's adjustable right there. So I've got it centered up in the bushing, but do I have it set at the right height? So they all ride on this top plate right here. And so you can set this just off to the side, sit down low on eye level and see if that's going to line up with the case neck shoulder area. And truthfully, that looks pretty good. It looks like the flame is going to enter just on the lower third of the neck here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is fire up our machine. Then we're going to hit run stop. It's sitting at 30%. Now last night when I was doing this, I was turning off the lights and then watching to see if I could see any amount of case glow. And then I was shortening the time from there. So I wanted to get it just before it starts to glow. So I've seen some videos where people get them to where they glow significantly, and then I've been told that you don't want them to glow. I think it's somewhere right in that temperature range. Right before brass gets red hot is kind of where it's annealing the best. So what we're going to do, maybe I'll go kill the lights in my garage and see if we can see how this goes. Now you can see more of that flame there. It looks a little better actually. You get a pretty good view of what's going on. So I'll drop this guy into the next station. 30%. And then the flame color will turn an orange-red once the case gets hot. Right there, I can start to see it. Truthfully, it could probably take a little more time, but this is how I was annealing last night, the 708. And so I think that's kind of where I want to be. I just want to be consistent on these for the first run. And I don't feel that I'm over annealing by any means. And so what we're going to do is just start loading up the turret. Trying not to burn my fingers, but we can load up the turret on this side so you're staying a little further from the flame. Oh dear, that's a problem. I'm going to take my little Allen wrench here and scoot that out of there. There we go. Another thing to really pay attention to, see how that orange flame is coming in, neck's getting warm. Right as it's about to actually glow red, it drops it out. Yep, looks good. And while watching these, there is variation of how each case anneals. Like sometimes the color isn't as pronounced, sometimes it is more pronounced. There we go, finally got my turret loaded while trying to avoid the camera. And that's how I've been annealing with my cases here. Keep an eye on your flame from your torch. Depending on your fuel level, it may change where that point ends up. And you want to try and keep it consistent. But for a first timer annealing, I did 200 pieces last night. It all went super smooth. I'm pretty happy with it. Ultimately, you set the flame position, you set your duration. That's all there really is to this, guys. And after watching some other videos of people who have been annealing longer, and they just kind of tell you like, you know, you should at least just try it. This is a great machine to start out with because it's extremely simple. So AGS Customs, you can find the link down below. Shipping was really fast. I know it's international, but they got me taken care of really quick, showed up. Everything looked good. The package wasn't damaged or anything. And then it comes with multiple pieces to do different calibers very easily. The speed is super easy to adjust. Everything lined up great as long as you just got that correct torch head. I've been very happy with this. Let me go turn on the lights to get a better view. And so I've currently got 100 pieces of brass to work on here. And like I said, it goes pretty quick. The brass is catching up underneath here. So I recommend having a pair of gloves or something like this to just kind of move the brass around. And then as I was switching calibers, I was taking all the brass from the tray here and then putting it in a big ammo can. And you don't have to be right on top of filling it up. I mean, I just sat here with a drink last night. You can look at your phone or whatever while these cycle through. I'm not going to leave this unattended because I don't want an unattended flame going on in my garage. And so, I mean, I'm going to be out here whether it was an auto feeder or not. So the fact I have to set a couple pieces of brass in here is no big deal. So if anyone has a lot more experience than me annealing, please sound off in the comments if you think I'm doing anything absurdly wrong. From what I've seen on YouTube, this kind of seems like the general rule of thumb here, is that you just, I'm not cooking it till it's like crazy hot or anything. It's not glowing red. It seems that it's getting annealed, it's getting hot enough. And then they just drop out, roll out. I will say in the differences between 223, 708, and 6.5 Premium, a lot of people say that you can't judge an annealing job based off of the discoloration. That guy's good and warm. I would say that's true because brass is within the same lot. Like, these cases are going to look different down here, and then especially different between cartridges. Like my 223 looks like a perfect anneal that like you see from a factory or whatever. And my 6.5 Creedmoor really didn't show much differentiation on the color at all. Like it kind of just looked like a little more cooked on the neck was all. But it didn't necessarily look annealed, if that makes any sense. Whereas the 708 gets a slight discoloration and kind of looks like it's been annealed. But people say that you don't go off of that. So ultimately, I don't really care. So if they don't look the same, I'm not too worried about it. Now you can get that color changing Templac once it hits a certain temperature, the paint changes or boils or whatever. I haven't done that. I turned off the lights and looked to see if it was glowing red. I think it's right to the point where it's about to. So I should probably increase my flame here. I think that it actually had crept down just a little bit. And overall, I think we're doing annealing. This thing makes it super simple. It's easy. It runs smooth. I haven't had any issues or misfeedings. If you have any issues, just cut the gas and then you can adjust your settings from there. Super straightforward. Like I say, it's really just two things. It's aiming your flame and setting your duration. And I do that for every different cartridge that I'm running with. And there we are. We just finished up all of our brass. Go ahead and kill our torch. Super simple. So I've been doing some research and homework before getting this machine and whatnot. And I'm absolutely sold that annealing is a good thing to do. Like Ultimate Reloader just posted a video recently where he fired and reloaded a piece of brass until it failed. Now it was alpha brass, which is what I'm using here. This stuff is amazing high quality. Alpha has supported my channel. I greatly appreciate it. But like, awesome stuff. Like, I'm not going away from alpha. These guys kick ass. If they offer the cartridge, I'm going to keep working with alpha brass here. The other thing about that is Ultimate Reloader was also annealing every time between shots. So I believe he was using the amp annealer there. The amp annealer is the way to anneal, right? It's super awesome, but it is crazy expensive. It's over $1,000 more than this. This one isn't particularly inexpensive, but it does come with some nice machined parts. Like the turret's really sweet. The way it works is really simple. It's got a good electronic system here. It comes with multiple sets of bushings. Like, this is a legit annealing setup. It comes with the Sharpie holder here to mark your brass and stuff. It's modular, it works well, and then it's easy to adjust. So I really like this. So be sure to check out AGS if you're interested in annealing. It's a great way to get started with it. Truthfully, I wanted to get an amp for a long time, but I can't justify it for what I do. I don't know, like, this still anneals brass. So like, you're gonna pay $1,000 more for a scientifically perfect anneal, but this is still annealed brass. You're still getting a good anneal here. So I can't say what you're really getting with that $1,000 more. Not saying it's bad, I'm not. It's a sweet system, but this thing gets you annealed brass. I don't know what else to say about that. After running this machine last night, and even today, nothing on here gets hot. It does have a sticker up here that says caution hot surface. Maybe if you're running like 1,000 rounds or something, I don't know. But overall, it's slightly warm, but nothing on the machine itself actually gets hot. And the brass does stay hot for a good amount of time. So the whole cookie sheet thing is a good way to go. Giving it an area to cool off is a good way to go. And then just, like I say, I was dropping mine in the ammo can. I just popped the lid off of, and then I got all my cases down. Just about dropped that. Dropped all my cases down in there. It's a good way to go. So the way I annealed is that I fully resized first, I trimmed, and then I'm going to throw this into a rotary tumbler, which we're going to talk about next. It's another one of my new reloading tools. So let's get to that. Let's check that out. I haven't messed with that at all yet, and hopefully I don't screw that up either. All right, I'm gonna be honest here, guys. I really don't like making videos where I'm doing something for the first time on video. So, here we go. Okay, that brass did not feel too hot. I had a little bit of time to calm down. I put some amount of water, maybe to here, inside this in case something was too hot. So the brass would actually be quenched and cooled a little bit. I know that they're not gonna be like raging hot right now, so that it just doesn't hurt the rubber lining in the drum here. But essentially, let's see if we can get a view. Yeah, there we go. All right, so now we're gonna put a bunch of brass in here. The water temperature is the temperature at which I take a shower. So it's not cold, it's not really hot, but it is warm. All right, there we go. See a little bit of steam coming out here. It is cold in my garage. It's only 45 degrees. Okay, we did not ding our case neck, so quality. There we go. We're gonna go fill this guy up to the top to right here, so with some warm water. All right, got the drum filled up to here or so with some warm water. And then as far as how many cases we have, I put 100 708 in there. I've got like 180 708 cases. I've got 100 6.5 Creedmoors, and then I've got 60 223s. So just under 300 pieces of brass. Is that how math works? I don't remember. A little over 300. Double sealed on the bag so the stainless media doesn't escape. So this is all Frankford Arsenal stuff. I bought the big rotary tumbler, and it came with these stainless steel pins. Let's drop them in. All 5 pounds is what the instructions call for. Mine came with a little sample packet of their cleaner, and shout out to my mom. She's the one who got me some extra products for Christmas here. She got me a Frankford Arsenal bottle of cleaning solution, so this is what I'm sticking with. I haven't tried it yet, but can't imagine it will be bad, as long as I can get it in the bucket at least. Wash it around in there. And there we go. I also got the full bougie kit where I've got the magnet to sift through the stainless media, which is magnetic. So apparently it's phosphorus in some fashion. It's a low quality stainless, I suppose. And then we're gonna tighten this guy up. There we go. Tighten this guy up. Now the problem is, they say to shake it to see if it's leaking. My problem here is that this whole thing is already wet. So. No, she's leaking. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Is that better? I don't know. I don't think it is better. She's good and tight there. It's hard to grab the barrel and like really crank on this thing. And then I've heard these are really hard to open once they've been tumbling for a while. So I'm gonna go grab my tumbler where this guy rides. We'll set it on there, see if it's dripping or not. All right, guys, so for anybody who is interested in doing this, I will say the Frankford Arsenal instructions answer every dumb little question that I had. So like these are really solid. Definitely read the instructions. It'll tell you exactly how to do this process. That's the reason why I feel confident in doing this. And the other videos I watched didn't really answer the dumb little questions that I had. So in truth, if you're interested in it, it'll create nice clean brass as I'm about to demonstrate. I have no doubts about that. And then also the instructions tell you everything you're gonna need to know about how to do this. So it says generally 0 to 500 pieces of brass, 1 to 2 hours will clean it. So let's do, I will say this thing is not quiet, and also it rotates this thing really fast, like a surprising amount. I'm also not gonna leave it on this table. I need to get it down to the ground because it does say like if you put it up on top of something, it'll wiggle its way off because you're probably not going to babysit it the whole time. So put it on the ground where it can't fall. Here she is, about 2 hours later. It tumbled for an hour and a half on my timer, and then it sat here while I was out at dinner. But this water is super gross. This is crazy dirty with only 300 pieces of brass. We're gonna get it out of there and see how it looks. All right, guys, and I just ended up making up this last portion of this as well. So I needed to dry my brass, so I stole my wife's food dehydrator, which I'm pretty confident has dehydrated food one time, and then it's been sitting in my garage ever since. And the brass seems definitely dry, so can't be mad about that. I ended up setting the temp to 140 for 4 hours, and then it's been sitting an extra day as well. It's been cold in the garage, so I don't expect that it would have really evaporated much. I think that the food dryer did its job here, but every case I've been picking up, been looking down inside of it, and I can't see any water or anything. So I think that this is done. Just got to get it organized and then put back into their cases. So in this video, guys, these are all new processes that I have done. I've changed up how I am trimming my brass with this Lyman. Overall, I'd give this thing probably a 7 out of 10. It's not my favorite way that I would prefer to trim it. It also doesn't chamfer or deburr, and it leaves quite a big flat edge with a lot of like sharp edges around it, so you have to chamfer and deburr after trimming with this fashion. It also makes me wonder how square I am trimming, because you can kind of push it in there on a bit of an angle, and it does move around, as well as bits of brass get stuck down in these aluminum pieces here, which is where it references off of. So I'm wondering if that could possibly lead to some inconsistency things. I'm not 100% sure. Overall, it seemed to be doing pretty well with all the brass pieces that I checked the overall measurement on. And then you do want to resize before you trim up with this thing so that it's all consistent from that resized shoulder to the end of the neck, because that's its reference point essentially for trimming them. On the rotary tumbler that I used from Frankford Arsenal, that was the big one. It's not the smaller one. I should have just bought the smaller one, truthfully. I don't need to do big batches of brass like this very often. It actually took me, there's a reason I waited till this point to do this, and it's because I decided to do all these at once. But it's pretty rare that I have like 300 pieces of brass that I want to process all at the same time. Typically I do like 40 to 50 at a time. So here's the 223 stuff. After being tumbled, the anneal marks are gone, which I found pretty interesting. Here's 6.5 Creedmoor. These are all pretty. Here's 7mm 08. We can take a look inside the primer pockets. I tumbled these for 90 minutes, and then it sat in the solution for probably 2 hours after that, and then got those out. I probably should have rinsed these as well. Should have like filled up with water and kind of rinsed them out before I just took them out and then separated them and then just dried them out. So I would have liked to get a little bit of clean water across them first. The food dehydrator worked perfect, and again, I just took that from my wife, so it's kind of funny. As far as the annealing machine, I'm really happy with that. It works excellent, just how I would like it to, and overall, I'm gonna give that thing like a solid 9.5 out of 10. I just need to probably get Templac for myself so that I know, hey, this is the perfect anneal that you're getting right here, or at least close to it. Outside of that, I greatly appreciate your guys' time. We will see you guys out on the range.